I think Andy Burnham is feeling that if he is bold on these issues, there may be some consensus on problems facing the country in dealing with them.
The Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, says he might increase the conditions on people required to receive benefits. His comments come on a day where The Times has covered how 16 and 17-year-olds can be paid more in disability benefits than they can earn on minimum wage in some cases. Well, the Kids charity sent us voice messages from 2 adult teenagers who are disabled and currently receive personal independence payments, or PIP. Tom sent us this.
PIP is important to me because it allows me to access mobility tools for my sight impairment. The additional cost of these adaptive kits, also assistive technology and buying enlarged laptop monitors for digital communications.
Abby, also an adult teenager claiming PIP benefits for her disability, sent us this voice message.
PIP is important to me because it helps me to be able to live life to the fullest even though I have a disability. PIP money helps to buy things like fidget toys, weighted blankets, loops, taxi fare if I can't cope with public transport on some days.
Well, we've had so many messages of your examples of either relatives that you know who have PIP or you yourself. The Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, says, though, that what about social care? The NHS will collapse unless he reforms it. The BBC's Laura Koonsberg asked him if he would commit to reforming the system before the next election.
Whatever political capital I have, I will put in to fixing broken social care, and I would not want to leave office without having brought in the substantial change, the new system of social care that you described. I can't put a timeline on it right here, right now. If we don't do it, the NHS will collapse under the weight of trying to care for people who've really not really needed to end up in the NHS system.
Maybe not in quite so severe terms, but we have heard similar sentiments from previous Prime Ministers about social care. Let's look at this very tricky issue with Adam Boulton, Times radio presenter. Adam, good morning.
Good morning.
What reason is there to suggest that Andy Burnham will be able to succeed in reforming social care where many, Theresa May, Boris Johnson come to mind immediately, where previous Prime Ministers have failed here?
Well, I think the first point is that he is putting these issues centre stage and he's grasping them. In the case of Keir Starmer, he almost seemed apologetic when he talked about them, and he put them all out to consultation. So we've got the Louise Casey report due, that may be brought forward to this year. We've had Stephen Timms talking about welfare, and also, of course, we've got Alan Milburn on NEETs. And what we are seeing from the new Prime Minister is that he is using his honeymoon, or that first period after he comes in, to put these issues centre stage, which, of course, as you say, doesn't necessarily mean that ultimately there will be a solution. But, you know, he's using words like, I'm not squeamish about addressing the whole question of welfare and payments to young people. He's going to do, we think, a speech on that, on NEETs, people not in employment, education or training tomorrow. He's also scheduled a major Downing Street speech on social care for Wednesday. So he's putting these things into what, you know, New Labour used to call the grid, where he wants to get messages out. And it's interesting that the response that we've had from Kemi Badenoch, for example, who's written to the Prime Minister, is saying, well, listen, we are prepared to work with you on these things, provided you're not going back to the taxpayer to put up taxes to pay for them, which is, of course, a very qualified level of support. But also, we heard from Ed Davey writing to the Prime Minister again, saying that the Lib Dems would work with Labour. So I think Andy Burnham is feeling that if he is bold on these issues, there may be some consensus on problems facing the country in dealing with them.
Actually, if my memory serves me right, the Liberal Democrats spent a lot of the election campaign in 2024 talking about social care. Could this be the one issue where we do genuinely see, for the purpose of improving social care for the country, parties do work together?
Yeah, I think the simple truth is that unless the parties work together, this is unlikely to get into law or any of these significant changes. So I think there will be an attempt to work on the matter. I mean, it's important to say that in that clip you played, the point the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, was making goes back really to his days in the noughties when he was Health Secretary, where he says because there is inadequate social care, we are seeing people clogging up the National Health Service, which is the only place that they can be looked after, and therefore that leads to long waiting lists and long delays in everyone else getting treatment. And if those people, he argues, can be removed from the NHS healthcare system and put into a care system, that would improve the thing overall. And what we're seeing from Andy Burnham is this suggestion that there are things which need to be improved up front, both in the case of social care and in the case of education or training, or indeed social public benefit programs for young people, that if those programs are put in place, then more young people will move off dependence on benefits. And then the argument goes, actually, the taxpayer will be a winner as well.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it'll be interesting to see what announcement he makes on Wednesday. On the front page of the Times today, on benefits, how much movement do you think we'll actually see from the Prime Minister when he says he could look at reviewing really the conditions on which people have, which enable them to get benefits?
Well, I think we are going to see movement on that. I mean, he has said that there needs to be more conditionality. I mean, one of the obvious changes is rather than people being approved for the new benefits over the phone, that they would have to go back to a system of face-to-face meetings and perhaps more regular checks on people. But, you know, the point that they're making on the front page of the Times today is that at the present moment, there are limits, quite rightly, on the amount of hours that people who are in full-time education can do. This is teenagers. And the amount that they can earn is actually less than the amount that you can earn, considerably less than the amount that you can get paid if you go onto the benefit system. So, you know, to most people looking from the outside, although we heard those cases of listeners just a moment, that would seem to be an incentive for some people to move towards benefits rather than find part-time work. And that's the sort of issue, very difficult, which the government wants to deal with. It has to be said, Pat McFadden was already working on this when he was Work and Pensions Secretary for Sir Keir Starmer. He's continued, and he's looking at models in countries like Austria and particularly Holland, where they're much more successful in finding programs that young people can do, including work and training, which means that they have much lower percentage of their population on benefits.
Yeah, Adam, thank you for the analysis. Adam Boulton, Times Radio presenter and political commentator.
We've had a number of comments about a number of the discussions that we've been having over the last hour, and thank you all very much for getting in touch. Just time to read out a couple of them. My two young adults, says an anonymous texter, are struggling on very low pay while studying and barely making ends meet, both in minimum pay roles surrounded by pals who get PIP, PIP for ADHD, anxiety and autism, but who all function well and they're much better off. It's not fair. Tighten up, definitely. And I've lost this second one. Oh, okay, this is from Robert, who says the voice message you played are moving, but they do not address the fact that there are ways of addressing these mental health issues without first putting someone on benefits.